Welcome back for another video. The Players to Buy series is back for 25-26, so the question is, who are the best players to buy for our Game Week 1 teams and for the opening game weeks beyond that? If you're new around here, the Players to Buy video will come out every game week all season to help guide you with the right players to buy and also which ones to consider selling using projection data from FPL Review. So we'll do the goalkeepers first. And for the first video of the season, we're actually going to sort by most points projected for the opening 5 rather than just the next game week. From game week 2 onwards, we'll be sorting by next game week rather than the next 5. This basically helps ensure that we build a really good long-term team from game week 1. So that actually places Alisson top of all the keepers on 18.1 points. He seems to be really overlooked right now. He's only 11% owned, so he's almost differential territory. Though obviously the Liverpool defenders are more popular, so that probably explains it. Plus Alisson's injury record's not great, so a bit of reluctance there to double up, which is sensible. Liverpool do have Newcastle in game week 2 and Arsenal in game week 3, so there are some difficult games before they get easier after that. So looking at the opening 5 game weeks column again, Raya is actually practically dead even on 18.0 points for the opening 5. Arsenal's fixture is also a bit mixed with that Liverpool game, plus they face Man City in game week 5. Sanchez has proven himself to be a really popular keeper given he's only 5 million, and if you look at that, the projections have got him neck and neck with the premium keepers. It's undoubtedly his spot to lose for the time being. Jurgensen, really capable backup, so there is always that slight lingering doubt that if Sanchez has a couple of howlers, then he could be rotated, but in my eyes he's worth the risk for 5 mil, he should be safe. Another point of note here is Sells is only 0.5 points behind Sanchez for the opening 5 game weeks. Forest's defence has been nearly immaculate in pre-season. They've now played their 7th and final game, keeping 5 clean sheets in 7, so really encouraging reading for Forest defence owners, whether that's Sells or a defender. So who actually was the best defence last season? Of course, last season's data doesn't necessarily trend into a new season, but over 38 game weeks it was Arsenal, 35.07. Expected goals conceded was better than any team. Liverpool second with 38.7 XGC. Then it was Newcastle, Everton and Chelsea. Liverpool actually kept the most clean sheets though with 14. There has been a trend towards fewer clean sheets in recent seasons, perhaps in part due to that stoppage time rule change that happened a couple of years ago, which has basically created longer play time and more last minute goals. The table here from Scout, by the way, use the link in the description to become a member and access all the incredible tools they've got there in the members area. So who's the best budget keeper then? Well, Kelleher's the favourite, just about making the table here of 16.3 points for the opening 5. If you've got him, or if you're considering him, then just pay close attention to Brentford News in their press conference, because he did miss their last pre-season game with a minor injury, as did Sharda. Let us know in the comments which keeper you're running with. Of course, the last one to mention is Dubravka, who's left Newcastle, and he's now at Burnley, and you'd expect him to be the logical first choice keeper given that he's proven himself in the Premier League, as opposed to Weiss, who's been signed from the second league in Germany. So yeah, Dubravka just makes far too much sense for 4 million as a backup keeper. Defenders next then. So Van Dijk leads with 20.6 points for the opening 5, and then it's actually a tie between Murillo and Pedro Porro. Something we're definitely going to have to all get used to this season is defensive contributions and how to factor them into our thinking going forward. The top teams get fewer of them because they generally control games and they spend less time defending, but they do keep more clean sheets, so the scales have been tilted in a different way for sure. And that sweet spot seems to be the mid-table teams that are still capable of clean sheets but still defend a lot, so Everton and Forest last season were best for that. Van Dijk hit the threshold for defensive contribution points in just 29.7% of games last season, Saliba 15.2, Vardy 13.9, Tarkowski for comparison 66.7% of the time last season. In Everton's final pre-season game, he hit the 10 DEFCONs threshold in just under 70 minutes. Murillo hit 10 plus in 52.8% of his games last season. Graphic here courtesy of Tom Hadley. So Murillo would have hit double-digit points on 5 occasions last season with defensive contributions and bonus points. We've never been able to hit double digits before from just a clean sheet with no attacking returns, but now we can. Milenkovic, on the other hand, not as good for defensive contributions on average, but he did have a lot more goal threat, significantly higher expected goals, so he's kind of lower floor but higher ceiling. Are any of you considering Porro for 5.5 mil then? Extremely attacking fullback, 8 goals, 17 assists over the last 3 seasons, and Frank will make them a more solid defence than they were last season, and he's going to likely even be on corners due to Maddison's injury, maybe the odd free kick as well. Karaj is really flying under the radar. Obviously 6 million makes him the joint priciest defender, but Chelsea a really solid defence as the data earlier showed us, and Maresca does give him that licence to bomb forward down the left, whereas whoever plays in right back often inverts into midfield. He'll score a fair few goals again this season and should pick up quite a few assists. New signing Frimpong makes the Gameweek 1 defenders table then. I'm still not fully convinced of his minute security just yet, and if you're having to ask yourself will he start every game about any player, then that suggests avoid them initially. Bradley may or may not get the odd start still. Gabriel misses out due to lower expected minutes for him right now. He did miss a huge chunk of pre-season, but he did start their final match against Athletic Bilbao. That seemed to be full strength. Gyökeres started, by the way, interestingly. But yeah, that was Gabriel's only start of pre-season. If we crank him up to 90 expected minutes, then he's on 18.5 for the opening 5. So just ahead of Tarkowski, just behind Cucurella, Munoz and Frimpong. What about some cheaper defenders then that don't make the table? Let's talk about a few of those. My favourite for 5 million is Nico Williams. He's got an attacking return in him, and last season he got more defensive contributions than any fullback or wingback, so he's kind of the best of both worlds. He can get you points both ways. Just keep an eye on the transfer window because Leif Davis has been linked with Forest. Lacroix and Collins also great for 5 mil. They're all on about 17.5 points for the opening 5, so take your pick. Going down even cheaper then, Anderson from Fulham, also on 17.5. He's really good for DCs. Palace's centre-backs Richards and Guehi on about 16.2, Konsa 15.9, Senesi the same, Wan-Bissaka 15.3. Of course it's all about the fixtures as well, so whichever way you go with your cheaper defenders, that their fixtures are as good as possible. An easy way I like to do it is with the fixture ticker tool on FPL.page in the Focal app. You just select a team and then press sort by rotation. You can set custom ratings as well if there's any that you disagree with in terms of the default ones set by FPL. I'm currently on Van der Ven and Guehi for 4.5 mil rotation in my draft, but yeah, there's so many workable combinations. Going down even cheaper, Estev, probably the best bet. Rodon, Gudmundsson and Biel look great as well for 4 million. Onto the midfielders, which makes for really interesting reading. So first of all, Salah sits miles ahead of the rest, 33.5 points for the opening 5. It's Palmer 29, Bruno 26.8, Saka 25 and Wirtz 24.5. We'll do a proper comparison with Haaland in a moment when we get to the forwards, but you can see why Salah and Palmer are the really popular premium combination to have. Though of course Haaland is Haaland. He could bag 10 in the opening 5 again like last year, and it wouldn't surprise you in the slightest. What does surprise me is how highly rated Bruno is. But the more you dig into it, the more it does make sense. Of course there's the penalties, free kicks, corners, consistent goals and assists every season. But he also does really well for defensive contributions. He hit the 12 threshold that midfielders require 11 times last season. That would have been an extra 22 points. And he would have scored 2 DEFCON points in their final pre-season game against Fiorentina, to give you a real recent example. That game he had 9 recoveries, 1 interception, 2 clearances. He also got an assist that game off a corner. Consistency is exactly what you want in an FPL asset, and this graphic measures which midfielders would have hit 4 or more points than most last season, and that's with defensive contributions factored in. Salah was on another planet last season, doing so in 74% of games. Obviously no DC points for Mo. Casemiro did well, but he's not nailed and he started 18 games. But then after that it's Bruno, who scored 4 or more points 55% of the time last season with 20 attacking returns. Some interesting DEFCON picks are as well. Caicedo 53% of the time, Anderson 52, Rice 47. Saka's looked sharp at the end of Arsenal's pre-season, scoring in fact in their final game, only 15.5% owned. Wirtz versus Bruno seems to be the big debate though. It's difficult to fit both and without big sacrifices elsewhere. Which side of that one are you on? Liverpool of course a better attack, more goals without a doubt, but he is new to the league, Wirtz, and he hasn't proven himself here just yet. Unbelievable talent though, so highly rated, and realistically they could both finish the season on about 200 points. Speaking of unproven but big promise, Reinders scored a brace in City's last match after coming on at half time. He's a really flexible player, probably going to be used as an 8 under Man City's system. Probably wouldn't do great for DCs in that role, but he has been impressive for only 5.5 mil. Anderson is kind of the analytics favourite pick for the same price. he did really well for DC's last season. 8 goal involvements, which isn't too bad. 19.7 projected points for him for the opening 5. Arias is on 17.5 with an estimated 80 minutes per game. Adingra is on 16.7, so yeah, Anderson the favoured one there. Anderson's actually not far behind the likes of Gakpo and Eze either. I mean, Gakpo, he's been on fire in pre-season himself. He's got 4 goals and an assist. He is slightly risky for minutes, especially if Isak arrives, which seems likely, but he should be nailed for the opening games. So will any of the 4.5 mil midfielders start? It's actually not out of the question, but it's pretty slim pickings. King from Fulham and Potts from West Ham started in the final pre-season games. Traore also has a chance for Bournemouth due to injuries, but I would probably go for King if I was picking one. Just don't plan to ever start him in your team, because he's probably going to be one that comes off the bench more often than not. A very sensible team structure for Game Week 1 is to cover loads of different price points, so a premium of course, a mid-price player like Bruno or Wirtz, the same up front, and some cheaper ones like a 6.5 mil and a 5.5 mil mid. This keeps you really flexible with potential transfers that you can make in one move. Transfers are so valuable in FPL, and you want to save them whenever you can. Finishing up with the forwards then. So Haaland sits on 28.4 projected points, 28.4. So for comparison, Salah was on 33.5 and Palmer 29. 6.3 points for Game Week 1 places Haaland just behind those two as well for the first game. So do we go Salah, Haaland, both, neither? Well, last season taking both into Game Week 1 ended up the winning combination, but it is tricky this season with the price increases, particularly for Salah and obviously other players, whereas I know Haaland's gone down a little bit, the point remains though. Review projections do favour going Salah and Palmer. So Watkins is second for the opening 5, and then it's Mateta and Bowen. Mateta's actually the most informed striker in the league in pre-season. He's got 4 goals and an assist. Bowen's also looked really sharp with 2 goals, 2 assists himself. Fulkrug has actually got 3 goals and he's only 6 million, but his minutes are a little bit of a question mark with Wilson an option for Potter. The final pre-season form video will be coming out tomorrow, where all 20 teams will be covered, everything you need to know from the whole of pre-season, so do make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that. Annoyingly, given the fixture, Solanke looks like an avoid for the time being. He's missed almost all of pre-season with an injury. Mateta are actually the favoured 7.5 mil forward regardless here for projected points, though of course there is Wood and obviously João Pedro that are more popular. So where's João Pedro then? Well, minutes are really key here. By default he's on an estimated 68 per game, which is about what he's been getting, and that puts him just short of making the table. Perhaps a bit harsh though. I mean, Jackson's leaving, so it's mainly Delap who's going to be coming on for him. With an estimated 80 minutes per game, he's on 20.5 points, though that might be too generous. He is unbelievably highly owned though, João Pedro, so if you like to play relatively template to kind of keep yourself immune from those major rank swings, then that's another reason to consider him. Strand Larsen's the top 6.5 mil forward, he's on 19.6 points. It's just that Man City fixture Game Week 1 that's putting people off. You might find a structure that allows you to bench him Game Week 1 and then start him after that, but of course it's not impossible for Wolves to put 1 or 2 past City. The same applies to Evan Nilsson in fact, who like Strand Larsen did register good underlying numbers last season. Wolves have got City Game Week 1, Bournemouth have got Liverpool, so that's putting managers off, but beyond that the fixtures improve a lot, so don't rule them out, both great picks. Thiago's the other budget forward who does have a lot of potential, like Visser's expected to leave. Dango is being linked to Brentford, but there's reports that he's intended to be the Mbeumo replacement rather than the Visser replacement, so we could see Thiago get good minutes for only 6 mil, and potentially on penalties even. As far as the super cheap forwards, it's Mark Gue, who's joined Sunderland on loan from Chelsea, only 4.5 mil. But again, like the 4.5 mil midfielders, don't plan to ever start him or bench boost him. He's probably going to get the most minutes of any of the 4.5 mils, but it could be a lot of bench cameos over the season. Thanks very much for watching as always. See you soon for the next one.